relationship to wildfire, and things don't start off as you want, but there you are, right? So
Yep.
you deal with the situation the best you can. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. Welcome to the kickoff meeting for the Neighborhood Ambassador Wildfire Risk Reduction Training in our 2023 version of this. So this is our third year doing this program here, and you'd think that we would have gotten the other part smoothed out, but it's been a year since we've done this. So it's good to be here doing this program once again. In working with this program, we figured that there were a couple of main interest questions here. And one of them is, you want to learn how to reduce your wildfire risk. And then the other hook part to this is, of course, do you want a chance to earn a free wood chipper / hauling equipment rental for your neighborhood? And so we figured that to entice folks to come along, we might need to throw an incentive. And of course, we're going to cover those areas tonight. Just a little introduction here. I'm Andre Mouton. I'm the leader of the Tri-Lakes United Methodist Church's Emergency Preparedness Group. I've been with the group for about 10 years and been the leader for most of the time period that we've been in existence here. And I've also worked professionally in emergency management and also critical infrastructure protection. Here I was the emergency manager for the Air Force Academy for 6 years, and now I work for the Department of Homeland Security. We also have Lisa Hatfield. You want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Let's see. I'll come back. So I was one of the founding group members after the Waldo Canyon fire. And ever since then, we've been just learning more and more every year and trying to share what we know with more people. Because initially we were trying to do everything ourselves. And then we realized that was crazy and we need to spread the knowledge and get you all working on your own neighborhoods. And I also have written a wildfire novel called To Starve an Ember, which I did just because it's got all the same information in it that you learn from a PowerPoint, but it's even more fun.
All right. A third member of our group, he's not able to be with us here tonight, is John Rickman. He's also our public information officer. Those of you in the El Paso County area, you may have seen him at the Northern El Paso County neighborhood group meeting called NEPCO. He's involved with that from his neighborhood perspective. He's actually, I think, the HOA president for his neighborhood. And then he's also spoken on behalf of this program here at those meetings here. Okay, so just a real quick, the registration element, we asked demographic information from folks, but we didn't get information from everyone. So if you would, in the chat section here and down at the bottom part of your bar, there's an icon that says chat. If you would click on that, if you don't see it currently, and we'd like to get your name, your neighborhood, and city and state. So if folks could take a quick second to put your name and information in there, that would be greatly appreciated. And it's not a trick question. It's just as you see it. Wow, we had someone from Broadmoor. That's awesome. Not that the rest of you aren't awesome, but we've never interfaced with anyone from down in that area, so that's great to hear. Great to see. Okay, I think that pretty much covers most of I think everyone that we had here. Okay, so now we get into a poll here, and we actually have a poll that I will put up here, and it'll pop up on your screen, and it's basically asking your personal experience with wildfire risk reduction. It's not very complicated, it's fairly easy in it, but when you see it, you'll see 3 options here, and then you just pick the option that most appropriately associates with your personal experience here. So I'm going to bring that up now, and then I'm going to launch it now. So all you have to do is click on the radio button that you see that's most appropriate. So we're asking for your experience with wildfire risk reduction, and it kind of gives us an idea of, you know, the experience and background of the folks that we have participating. Once again, it's not a trick question. If you want to lean one way or the other, doesn't bother us, but it's informative for us. Okay, just to let folks see, we have one person that reported very little experience, and then 6 with moderate experience, and 6 without, or I'm sorry, 1 very experienced, 6 moderately experienced, and 6 with little or no experience. And for our perspective, we love the spectrum, honestly. The more folks that we have, the better across the spectrum, because you're able to bring either great questions, you know, to the sessions, or from the new person's perspective, or you have experience that you can lend to the discussion that's going on. So that's great to hear. So I'm going to end the poll with that. I think I already shared the results and showed it.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, you hadn't put them up before, but there they are.
Okay. Uh-oh, we have one straggler here. Let me see if I can catch the person once again. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And now I'd like to go to our next slide, which is a little motivation for you. So some of you that have been with us in the past have seen this here, so I apologize if you've seen it before. But really what we're looking to let you know is it seems intimidating, the amount of foliage we have around us, but there are methods and possibilities here and techniques that you can use to make your house, your property safer from wildfire. And there are folks who've done this in the past. Up in the Boulder, Nederland area, there's a group called Boulder Wildfire Partners, and they actually worked in this particular area. The picture that you see currently is the overhead shot to an area that was affected by a fire here, and you'll hear people talk about wildfire partners. So as you're looking at this, think about your own personal neighborhood here along the way. Don't think that I can never get there from that point, but just look at the perspective here, and you'll also hear a firefighter talk about his experience with Boulder Wildfire Partners and the fire in his particular area. So I'm going to move off this slide and then move over to YouTube and a presentation from there.
I heard it. It's kind of slow right now. Wonder why. I don't hear the sound. I don't hear it. Well, one thing I want to tell you guys is all the videos we show you, a lot of the documents that we show you, we'll be giving you links and copies of all these documents and every video. If you want to show it to somebody else, you'll have ways to get to them yourself later. There we go. Good.
Personally, what I had to do when the recognition, I mean, it was like, what's going on? This can't be real. And when I drove up there and then finally saw that, no, this was coming down on top of us, it was like all of a sudden, put your emotions aside and just get focused. You know what you have to do it. Work the plan. Don't think about it. But recognizing that this may be it. It is on top of us. We did not have any warning. So all we could do is react, take what we needed and go.
Pulling down an unmitigated driveway to an unmitigated structure, and you're in the emotional toil of an advancing fire front or embers or just all of the emotional content with that. You want to do a good thing and you pull down and they haven't done the pre-work to enable you to be successful. It's heartbreaking. And so then you make that decision that this is not a defensible space, and you know in your mind that you write it off and you move on to something more defensible.
Some of this footage.
I had done a lot of work, weeks and weeks of mitigation, all directed
video
by
they took
Wildfire Partners.
Homes that were saved, and
When we left, I had seconds to get out of here, and all I could do was turn it over and hope that our work would be successful. Turns out it was even better than my highest expectation.
this here, look
And
how
I
close.
think that's really because we took our time and did all the work that was necessary. We thought we were going to have to clear cut the whole property, and it turns out we didn't have to do that at all, and especially all the aspens around the property, which served to protect us, and they did protect us. They actually saved our land.
You know, the Smokey the Bear prevention idea is kind of very 50s, and we now have to think about living with fire. And Wildfire Partners helps that process. To learn how to live with fire is more important than just hoping that somebody else is going to take care of putting it out. So as the fire started, the wind shifted to its predictable pattern, came right towards the house. And because of the low fuel load around the house, the fire literally just followed the fuel around the zone 2 sections that were mitigated and never actually came to the house itself. So the result of that mitigation left enough greenery that we have a very nice landscape while the forest has been completely destroyed around the house. It's very easy to get attached to trees, and especially mature trees. So it takes a little bit of effort to think through what it's going to look like if those trees do catch fire.
Wildfire Partners, I think, to some degree, the benefit of it is self-evident if you look at the Cold Springs fire. I knew that a number of my neighbors on the road that I live on had participated in that, and then there were some homes that I didn't know had participated. And I can tell you that I hadn't participated, but being the fire chief, I thought to some degree maybe I knew as much as Wildfire Partners. And I think the benefit is that even having been in the fire business for 26 years, it is a fresh perspective on your property. That it's a different set of eyes that looks not just at your fuels and horizontal and vertical continuity and trees and shrubs and bushes, but also the building construction elements and the other pieces that they look at. being a professional in the business, I'm going to enter Wildfire Partners. I'm going to have a second set of eyes come look at my property. And I think the trick is that mitigation is, always present. It's never ending. And the trick is, how do you efficiently use your time? And I think Wildfire Partners will help prioritize, where you spend your efforts.
I would highly encourage everybody to do Wildfire Partners. And if you have considerations about it, keep in mind that nobody is going to make you do anything. It's all voluntary. So you'll learn all kinds of ways to protect your house that work. They work.
After the fire, looking at how things went down, I am certain that our house was savable because of the work we had done with Wildfire Partners.
If you live in the mountains, you need Wildfire Partners. So anybody who's interested in living in the mountains, call them.
So obviously we don't have Wildfire Partners here, but we have us and
The numbers,
you.
all right. In year one, we cleared $110 million in retail sales. Sorry, 250 million in retail sales and 110 million growth.
All right, Lisa, can you see my slides again?
I can see it still says Motivation Wildfire Partners video.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily going to be as proficient as Wildfire Partners initially, but the intent is to develop a neighborhood group that can help each other, and along the way make your properties safer, and hopefully collectively make your whole neighborhood safe. And so it takes years to get where these folks are here, but it has to start somewhere, and you need to have a group to start it with. And so think of them as a good resource, or your neighborhood group as a collective committee that could get things going and helping the entire neighborhood. And then as you start to work, you become connected with outside entities like your local fire districts or other community groups or other neighborhoods that can help you become smarter and actually support each other in reducing the wildfire risk. So we show this really to show what the art of the possible is. So you see that property there completely surrounded by burned foliage in here, whereas you've got the main structures in the house that survived, and they're applying the principles, or they've applied the principles that we're going to talk about here throughout the program. So, do you think that this situation is possible, and really moving your neighborhood towards a fire adapted neighborhood? In our view, the answer is yes, with time and consistent effort. You think that it's possible for a person or a group with little to no experience with wildfire risk reduction could lead efforts for an entire neighborhood? Our thoughts are the answer is yes, and we have the proof. So with that, we'll start to tell you a little story and provide a little background behind our group, the Tri-Lakes Emergency, or United Methodist Church's Emergency Preparedness Group. For those who aren't familiar with us, we're located in Monument, Colorado, and you think that it's a little strange that a church group is doing this, but we are an outgrowth of the 2012 Waldo Canyon fire, and a group of us in the church were concerned about trying to help the local community in recovery of for that fire. And through that time period, we also experienced the Black Forest fire, and we got even more motivated. But our mission statement, as you can see there, is to help others do the work of Christ by preparing and educating a network of local citizens to help each other in our community in times of disaster and other needs for assistance. So we can't think of anything better in terms of moving along with our mission statement than working and helping folks become better prepared. Here, just 1 second. We also had another person that had a bad link, so I just want to make sure that that person has the opportunity to come in. So a little bit more on our background here. We do work in wildfire preparedness and restoration. Initially, when we started this work, we were actually in the Black Forest cleaning up properties or helping to restore properties that had actually burned. Usually there was a house on the property, and we were busy cleaning up burnt trees like you can see in the background in the upper left. We also participate with the El Paso County Community Emergency Response Team and provide support to that. The picture you see there, for those who live in Monument, are familiar with the Monument 4th of July parade. So you'll see us walking around with green shirts and handing out water and keeping folks safe for that. We also conduct our own CPR and first aid training here. We have our own mannequins and a phenomenal instructor who is certified to teach, and you'll see that some of the most inexpensive training is, the sessions that we provide, and I would say probably the best. And then we also do emergency preparedness training. So the class that you see there on the bottom left is Lisa providing an emergency preparedness course for seniors. So we provide those types of trainings as well as the wildfire preparedness and restoration efforts. But we don't do this alone. We have a lot of partners here. Our primary sponsor and partner is the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. We've worked with partners in the Colorado State Forest Service. That relationship is in transition because our main partner, Dave Root, recently retired, but we're still trying to work with them. And we've also partnered with Colorado State University and the extension that is located here. We have a partner, a friend that's really well versed in the vegetation aspect, and actually to tell us what's good that we can put around our house. Quite often we hear what's bad, and we also find out what's good and what we can have here. So we have a partner that helps us with that. And then of course, the Monument Fire District here, they are strong partners here, and we've teamed with them quite a bit. We've also expanded to other areas that are not in the government sphere. We've worked with Fire Adapted Colorado. That's a community, a nonprofit organization, primarily in the western part of the state, but we're teaming up with them, and they help get the word out to partners out in the state. So we've learned this neighborhood ambassador concept from them, and we're modifying it for our own area and putting our own spin on it, but we really started with them. And our group started in the wildfire area with working with the Hope Restore Disaster Recovery Ministry. They are our mentors. They've taught us the process that we use for chipping days and safety, and a lot of the elements that you see when we're out on a project day, we've learned from them. And it's just well, not just, but it's a husband and wife team that leads the ministry along with other friends and volunteers. And we've worked really closely with them, actually teamed with them again last year to help with the property and monument. And then the National Fire Protection Agency from the professional side once again. And of course, our neighborhoods and the friends that we've worked with in the past here to learn from them and gain from their experience and stay partners with them. In terms of related efforts in this particular area, we've worked on properties for the last 10 years. So 50 different work days, 32 owners. We've performed chipping days for the last 7, probably more like 8 years here. I probably didn't update that, but neighborhoods all across Colorado. And we support wildfire information events. You'll see us here again in April at Palmer Ridge High School, supporting that community wildfire event here. And then, all of this work in this area led to us being rewarded with the National Wildfire Mitigation Award in 2020 from the sponsors that you see there. So it was a great honor for us here, and gave us validation to what we were doing, and just gave us motivation to continue working in this area. And I'll say that we're very proud that to this date, after working in this area for 10 years for the services that we've provided, we've not required one dime of support from anyone. Everything comes in from internal support from our church. Okay, so, that leads us to the community need. So, in going through that, we wanted to talk a little bit about the Neighborhood Ambassador Program concept. A few years ago, the USA Today and the Republic put out a fire hazard report, and it was really surprising. They looked at 5,000 communities across the entire Western United States. And it basically had a list of criteria, but scored them here and put it up on the website. And the links that you see down at the bottom here, we'll send out the slides to everyone, but you'll see if you were to go to those links, that online report. And if you remember the Paradise Fire in California, for reference, called also the Camp Fire, was pretty impactful to that community. If I remember right, there were 80 something folks that were lost in that particular fire. And if you want to look at the rating for Paradise, their score was 3.81 out of 5. And the study median was 2.08 out of 5. And to look at the local communities here relative to Paradise, pretty high, and some of them above. So that should lead at least some folks to give that kind of perspective that, hey, this is a real concern for us. So why did we create the program? Well, looking at the map here that you see on the right side, the legend will kind of give you a clue to where we're going with this, but the red and yellow and orange areas talk about the risk for fire and the level of risk. So red, of course, is the highest level risk, and then going down to yellow, which is the lowest risk. The other elements that are in there are the areas that are designated as community wildfire protection communities, or that communities that have community wildfire protection plans. And that means that they developed a plan for working and mitigating their fire risk. And then the last part are the purple area, or the light purple shading. Those are fire-wise communities, and those are communities that have started the process. Lisa likes to say that it's allows you to recognize that you have a problem with wildfire. So you can see that the overlays of the CWPP communities and the fire-wise communities are still within the red areas. And when we talked with or looked at this a little bit deeper, we could see that some of those areas that had community wildfire protection plans have existed. The plans have been in place since like 2007 and 2008, and there's been very little work being done on the communities. Well, why is that? It's not for the lack of information. FEMA puts out a lot of information, the state puts out information, and so does the county. But the real risk is in privately owned land. And so the neighborhoods, own that responsibility. The government organizations like the Monument Fire Department, are only going to work on private lands when there's a fire, but prior to the fire, that responsibility lies with the property owners. So we see basically a service opportunity to try to help bring folks together with this inside the neighborhoods to energize them, but they really don't have the information on, how do we get organized? What do we do? How do we place a focus? They're just not sure. So we created this program to help support that. So we take a look at the campaign concept, and we wanted to make it easier for neighborhoods. So we wanted to look at those elements that could be individually performed by homeowners. And so if you have to think that everything has to be a collective effort, it gets really tough. But if you look at elements that every homeowner can do, it makes it seem possible to do it. And then we also bring in a concept of neighbors helping neighbors. So if we bring together a neighborhood group, banding together to do some of the slash removal, then it entices folks to know that it's possible here. But you need a spark plug, and that person is a neighborhood ambassador. We'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly, but we're also looking to help create that spark plug with the neighborhood ambassador, and hopefully that person is able to bring together a Firewise committee or groups of folks within the neighborhood to help with that. So what are we looking at in terms of the goals of the program? Well, we want to have a beautiful neighborhood. We want to improve the health and beauty of the forest while still being mitigated or fire adapted, reducing that risk. We should be able to do the work and manage our own forest. We also want with the program to help neighborhoods become self-sufficient in doing it and not have to be reliant on organizing it within the neighborhood. And then also, these are three big elements here: improve your home survivability, improve the evacuation safety for the residents leaving the neighborhoods in case they have to leave, and then also first responder safety for those responders that are having to come into the neighborhood. Additionally, we would like to improve relationships between neighbors. We see lots of benefits and heard lots of benefits from neighbors helping each other outside the fire risk reduction activities, so they become closer as a neighborhood. And then we can build a network of neighborhood ambassadors for collaboration, so they learn different techniques that are out there that can give you a wide variety of abilities to reduce the fire risk. And then if we can do this and scale it, then we have collective safety if we're able to do it. So we're looking to try to expand this across the state and then also to other areas or other states in the West. So where do we ask folks to work? Well, we tell them that we would like them to start with their homes and look at the ground level vegetation within 30 feet around the residences, and then look at ladder fuels. And if you see the diagram there, looking at the lowest level of vegetation and making sure that vegetation cannot feed a fire into lower bushes and then into lower limbs of trees and then go up to the crown. So if we're able to break that chain in there, we can help prevent the big, huge crowning fires. And then look at avenues of approach, looking at ground level vegetation along driveways and streets. So we want to make sure that you're able to evacuate safely and then also allow ingress along the streets for firefighters that are coming in. The thought is that for your neighborhood and progressing, that you'd start off as a Firewise USA community, and that would be a near-term goal that helps you to get organized, find your direction, start to take action to increase that ignition, to reduce the risk and increase the ignition resistance of their homes, with the long-term goal of becoming a fire-adapted community. That you're knowledgeable, that you're engaged with risk reduction here, and then honestly, if you have to leave for a fire, then you have a greater capability for your properties to especially your houses, maybe not necessarily all the trees, but your properties and the important aspects within your property to survive without you being present, or maybe even firefighters being present on your property. If you can get to that, then you're at the ultimate state with living in this type of community. Firewise USA, we're thinking, between 0 and 2 years, and then maybe around 10 years, if you're, steady with your progress, that you could become close to becoming fire adapted. So what's the proof that this program works? Well, first, we've had a lot of interest over the last couple of years. The map shows the areas of participants from the past couple of years. Here we've had 30 neighborhoods participate and 80 persons within those 2 years. It's been about, I think, 45 the first year and about 35 the second year. And then we've had a couple of folks interested from outside the state, one in Montana and then one in Oregon. So what's a neighborhood ambassador? We term that person as that key organizer, that communicator, a coordinator for the activities inside that neighborhood. And honestly, the energizer, you sometimes need that person that's willing to do the effort to pull and bring everyone together to get things going. So we're really looking for those persons to start the process here. The top picture shows Red Rock Ranch. That is the first neighborhood that we worked with in this program. And this is their community annual meeting that you see there. Actually, Jamie Baumgartner, the battalion chief for the Monument Fire Department, spoke at that. We were actually working in that neighborhood that day and came in and spoke to their presentation. But Beth Longquist met us at a community presentation, and then we started the process of getting them organized. And they were so energetic. They were identified by the National Fire Protection Agency as one of their 7 communities of excellence here a few years ago. Wow. So we're really proud of working with them and getting to that point with them here. Down below, you see Black Forest Park. And what I'd like to do now is introduce Steve Jarislow. Steve was in the program last year with us and started from a complete blank slate. And I'd like Steve to introduce himself and then talk about his experience with the program last year. So Steve, welcome. And could you talk about your experience with the program from last year?
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, Andre, and for all your great work, and Lisa's as well. Yes, I was brought into the program along with another neighbor, Barbara Falconberry, about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I was intrigued by the fact that there was such a robust program and mature program in existence at that time. And I was very impressed with the professionalism of Andre and Lisa and the thoroughness of their program. So I did join up just about a year ago. And by way of a background, with regard to any experience I've had in these matters, I had very little personal experience with fire mitigation. Unfortunately, I did have experience with fire, however. I was affected by the Waldo Canyon fire because at that time in 2012, I lived in Woodland Park and I did have to evacuate. The fire got to within 1 mile of my neighborhood, and I will never forget throwing stuff into my 2 cars and my animals into the 2 cars and whatever works of art and important papers we had. And as my wife and I are driving out of our driveway, looking back at my rearview mirror, wondering whether or not I'd ever see my house again, thank goodness we did return to a house. We were one of the lucky ones. But it's a very, very frightening feeling, and that impressed upon me the importance of mitigation efforts. So Andre and Lisa's program became more and more appealing to me the more I learned about it. And we now live in Black Forest, which just 1 year after the Waldo Canyon fire became at that point the worst forest fire in Colorado's history at that point in time. And the neighborhood I live in, Black Forest Park, is unlike any of the neighborhoods that the slides that Andre had portrayed to me were like. Those neighborhoods, yes, they were in Nederland and other mountain communities, but those other mountain communities seem to be, how shall I say, well-groomed. They had, for the most part, they had asphalt roads, wide paved roads, and they already looked like they had been mitigated. And I remember telling Andre more than once, I said, Andre, I don't know if you've seen anything quite like our neighborhood, which, by the way, I love. It's extremely rural, and I don't think Andre fully appreciated it until I sent him photographs at his request. And what he saw were dirt roads, in some places barely wide enough for two cars to pass one another. They were not groomed. They are not maintained by the county. They're maintained by a couple of very well-intentioned neighbors that have construction equipment, but they're frequently badly rutted during the winter and the winter snows and the spring rains. The forest grows right up to the very edge of the roads. So it's questionable how well fire trucks could access various houses that might be threatened by a forest fire. And most importantly, there's only one way in and one way out of my neighborhood. So I think when Andre saw those photographs and heard my description, he realized that we were really starting from a point where many of the other neighborhoods where his organization had had so much great success, where we were well behind those other neighborhoods, and we had a lot of work to do. So the challenges that we encountered were not only the fact that, as lovely as our neighborhood was in a beautiful rural area, that we had more challenges than perhaps the average neighborhood. And secondly, a lack of momentum. We had a neighborhood association, I am told, years ago before I got here, because I'm a relatively new resident, but it had fallen into disrepair, I guess. So we had no neighborhood association. Many of the neighbors didn't even know their next door neighbor, and that included me. I'd only been here at that point about a year plus, 16 months or so. And so people more or less kept to themselves. I guess that's one of the reasons people moved to a rural area, to maintain their privacy, a little bit of a distance from their fellow neighbors. But while that has a positive aspect, it also has a downside when it comes to forest mitigation. And we clearly were in need of a lot of mitigation because the forest is fairly overgrown here. I would say the size of the average ponderosa pine here is about 45 feet tall, and many of us have trees that grow to 65 feet, which is why they call it Black Forest. It's a very dense forest with a lot of undergrowth as well. So I glommed onto Andre's group. I'm very happy that I did, and it's been we've only been in the group for about a year now, but I think it's a good start and a good success story. The one big event that we've had that relates to mitigation was sponsored by Andre and Lisa. It was a slash chipping event in October, which was very well supported by the neighborhood. I think you would agree, Andre and Lisa. We had a lot of neighbors participating in it once word got out, and a lot of volunteers. Andre and Lisa had put aside, I think, about 7 hours for the work, and we actually finished it in about 5, which included lunch. A lot of piles left by a lot of neighbors at the end of their driveway, but with a little bit of instruction from Andre and Lisa and a lot of hard work, we got a lot of slash chipped. It was very successful. It was great for building camaraderie. A lot of neighbors met a lot of other neighbors they hadn't met before. It was, I think, a very successful first event. But as Andre pointed out, these events and this initiative are good for a lot more than just fire mitigation, even though that's their primary purpose. It does build a neighborhood spirit. We have had, in addition to that, we've had a barbecue, which was very well attended. We had a road improvement effort because our roads are regularly gutted since they're only dirt. We had introduction of high-speed internet to the neighborhood, which we didn't have before. We had a road trash cleanup event as well. We had a holiday social in December, which was well attended, and we added 7 new homeowner members to our informal group. And it is an informal group. It's not an HOA. We have no dues, no bylaws, no mandatory anything. It's a completely informal group. I now, just today, Andre added 2 new members. So we now have 23 homeowners out of a total number of, I think, 32. So most of the homeowners in this little neighborhood are now on board with this informal group. I've created a composite email list with everyone's contact information on it. God forbid if we ever had a fire, everyone could notify everyone else that there's a fire in the neighborhood. Get out your emergency preparedness lists. Get ready to potentially evacuate. And again, at the moment, we only have 1 point of ingress and egress. So this is critically important for us right now. Generally speaking, I would say Andre and Lisa's initiative has been a huge success. I'm looking forward to more successes this year, more initiatives, more socials. Andre, I'm sorry to say I haven't yet quite contacted the local fire departments, but I will be doing that very shortly to see if we can be added to their list of free slash efforts this year. We'll see if we can qualify for a state grant to do so. Maybe we can have 2 such efforts this year. And yes, I will write to the county commissioners reminding them that our neighborhood only has that 1 point of entrance and exit, so that maybe we can get some more effort done to create a second point of egress. Heaven forbid if we do have an emergency, to make it a lot safer for the residents. So I'm very excited about the initiative to be expanded this year, and I'm very grateful to Andre and Lisa for their efforts to introduce us to this great initiative. Thank you.
It was really fun to meet you guys too, Steve. You had a really fun group there.
I think we did, and we intend to expand it, and look forward to meeting even more of my neighbors.
Yeah, so like Steve mentioned, they started from near blank slate, and like he mentioned, that they're not a formed HOA. So if Steve and his group can transition from that to where they're at today, I think it's possible for nearly every neighborhood here, and that's exciting for us to see. I mean, really, we want to get neighborhoods together under the quote guise of wildfire preparedness, but it's a good mechanism for us to bring folks together. So thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate your words here, and look for continued partnership going forward.
Thank you.
And just to show other elements here, just more evidence behind it, the top 2 pictures are worked with Red Rock Ranch in the first a couple of years of us doing this. The left picture is our work meeting, and then us doing the work with them. And then the Colorado Estates, and if you're not familiar with that area, it's the area just south of County Line Road, but immediately west of I-25, there between I-25 and Palmer Lake, and worked with them. And the bottom left is us doing a safety brief prior to their chipping day, and the bottom right is the picture of their chipping day working with the Monument Fire Department here. And through our program, we promote that the list that Steve mentioned is they now have a chipper, and their crews go out and provide support free of charge, your community tax dollars at work here. We're proud to have partnered with the fire department to help them with the justification that allowed them to get that chipper, but that is a resource for the community. It is very, very wanted for throughout all the neighborhoods here. So we'll connect you, those folks that live in the Monument Fire District, with getting on that list for signups for that. Some are not aware of that yet, but some are. And the earlier you can get on the list, the better. That list fills up for the entire summer within days. So we'll do our best to try to connect you. So some of the work afterward, Red Rock Ranch, and some of the clearing that we did there, of course, it's not perfect, but it's better, right? And so down below, same property owner here on the left here, you can see that you still have trees and what I would consider some ladder fuels, but the amount of vegetation is much, much less. And we worked within the parameters that the property owner desired. We didn't want to, we never advocate clear cutting here, but we certainly want to prevent ladder fuels here. But that's what we were able to do with that property owner. For last year, or the first year's program, here's some of the folks in the meeting, the groups that participated, the Town of Lyons, and we have the Weeks, Russell and Kimberly on tonight, and they participated from the Rivers Divide area in eastern El Paso County. And then we've worked with folks in the Ute Pass and Pikes Peak Mountain Estates and Cascade, and then also up in Evergreen for them to participate in their day. So we're supporting elements all around. We didn't provide the chipper for the Evergreen folks, but we supported the effort that they actually had. And then the Town of Lyons folks, they actually had slash hauling to an area, and it was chipped by a local entity. So there are different ways of doing the business. Additionally, in 2021, in Bailey, Colorado, you'd see the pre-briefing that they had in the upper left for Deer Creek Valley Ranchos, and then they had an after party afterward. Awesome barbecue that day, and then other neighborhoods in the Monument area, Bent Tree and the Ridge at Fox Run. In 2022, we worked in Peyton here and worked on the single property in eastern El Paso County, and then noticed that we're having a lunch get together with them. And then over in Steve's neighborhood, this is the chipping day that he referenced here, and his folks on the bottom left, and then us having lunch together here. So we're always pushing folks to provide a social element to this, and it brings folks together, makes them want to meet each other and know each other a little bit more. And plus, on these days they're kind of tough. So, getting more energy is always good. Okay, so now that we've talked about it here, so how does this program work? So I'm glad you asked that. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Lisa Hatfield, who will talk a little bit more about the details of the program. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Andre. So did you see Russ put in the chat? He has a new motto: we'll tip for lunch. Yeah. And the other thing, my other motto is we will do a lot of work for before and after pictures. We'll have more before and after pictures to show you soon. But so what's coming up over the next 2 months, we realize this is a big time commitment for you. So here's what's coming. Most of our teaching will be done via the Zoom platform, so we can give you a lot of real detailed information and examples and pictures and documents and websites. And then we will have some in-person time to go and practice doing evaluations on properties. Here, those of you who live close by and near Monument area, we're going to strive to have you all meet together if we can. And then if you're not right close by, we're going to help you get connected with the professionals near you so that you can get those evaluations done and see what it really looks like where you are. We will be assigning homework because it really helps if you do this in small chunks. So at the end of each class, we'll assign next week's homework, and we encourage you to really do it. Imagine that. But that way you can ask questions and share what insights you picked up during the week on that stage of the homework, because we're going to really move ahead quickly once we get rolling. And yes, we will be recording the meetings so that if you can't listen in one night, you can catch up and other people can join in as they get the word, and you can rewatch things as you need to. Okay, Andre, there we go. So next week, we're going to just talk about getting organized. How do you get started talking to your neighbors when you have a sense that our neighborhood maybe is not as safe as it ought to be, and you may not even know what to tell them yet. But don't worry, by the time we get you going through the class and you have a meeting scheduled to meet to talk to your neighbors and maybe with some guest speakers, by the time you get it scheduled, you'll know what to say and how to explain why your unease is really well-founded for your whole neighborhood. Then for module 2 and 3, I'll be teaching those. Those will be very detailed as far as how to evaluate a single property using the Wildfire Assessment Program, which we like because it's really easy to do for civilians. It's an 8-page assessment form that walks you through all the things you should think about on a property. We're going to break it into how to look at your home ignition zone, which is the area around your house first, and look at the vegetation. And then the module 3, we're going to look at what your home is actually made of and vulnerabilities that your home might have that a flying ember could sneak in and catch it on fire. The line I love to share is, if your house doesn't catch fire, it won't burn down. So we're going to teach you how to make it less likely to catch on fire. Then March 21st, we'll have guest speakers like the Colorado State Forest Service or the Monument Fire Department or people like that who are going to explain what their role is. And we are going to encourage you all day to connect with your local professionals, whoever they are, wherever you are. We'll take a break over spring break. And then by April 4th, that's when we want to do our in-person home assessment exercise so that you can meet us and walk through somebody's property, whoever volunteers, to point out examples. We'll do 3 loops around the house and fill out the Wildfire Assessment Program form together. And if you can't do it with us, again, we hope by then you will have connected with your professionals. For module 6, Andre will talk about how to organize your fire risk reduction project for your neighborhood, how to set up a tipping day, and how to make sure it runs smoothly. And I tell you, we have the most no-nonsense safety briefing this side of the Mississippi, and we're very proud of that. If anybody starts to joke around about anything, we don't even look at me. We are so serious about our safety because we want everybody to want to come back and feel like this would be fun to do again next year or twice in the summer or something like that. Then we'll have a speaker talking about ignition resistant vegetation. What can you plant around your house? You don't have to have a barren desert, but you have to think wisely. And so we'll have lots of examples and information for you to spruce up things, spruce it up. Not with spruces though, don't use spruces. And then for April 25th, we're going to have a guest speaker about wildfire evacuation planning. So here's an interesting angle. It's okay for people to just pop in on different modules if they're only interested in certain parts. You don't have to do all the homework. Well, I hope you will, but if you have a neighbor who refuses to do anything about wildfire mitigation, at least maybe they can come and listen to that module about how to get prepared for an evacuation. how to have everything ready to go so that when you have to run away, it'll go as best as it possibly could. That's a weird way to say that. Then over the summer, we hope to meet in person with many of our neighborhoods in the class. If the ones that are close by, we'll do road trips sometimes, depending on where it is, and connect with you as you're doing your chipping days or / hauling days or whatever it is you decide to do with your whole group of neighborhoods and your Firewise committee. And then at the end of the fall, we'll have a review and everybody can get online again and talk about how it went over the summer. What progress did you make? What surprised you? And encourage each other to keep going again next year, because we want mitigation to become a lifestyle, not just a one-time event. So it's back to you, Andre.
Okay, so to do all this, thank you, Lisa, by the way. What's the incentive? So we really, we found in our first year that folks are a little bit more willing to stick with us through the whole program if we provide them an incentive. And for us, to us, it's pretty good. So we're going to award the best prepared or best participating neighborhoods in the process here. And how do we define that? Well, those neighborhoods who complete the most homework assignments. And we do get some folks that are really into it and they work pretty hard on it. So we will have the tiebreaker and look at thoroughness of completion of that if we need to get to that point here. But, you know, what will they get? And we were talking about, should we use our Price is Right analogy? What will they get, Johnny? Well, they'll get an EPG-led shipping day, just like Steve talked about for his neighborhood last year. We will sponsor it. We will lead it and help work with the neighborhood to organize it. And we will rent the chipper for that day. And so we'll just have to have everyone get the stuff out, but we'll guide you through that entire process and we will sponsor it. Also, we recognize that some folks don't live in our area here and they're still interested in doing that here. So if you don't live in the monument area, then we will defray the cost of your chipper rental or / hauling equipment and dump fees to the limit of a chipper fee that you would have, which is around, for the chipper that we're using there today, about $425 to $450. So we think that that is a great incentive. It helps you get going. Once you see it, you understand it, and you're able to do it. So that's our incentive for folks here to participate here. We really will abide by it. Our first year, we worked with 3 different neighborhoods and sponsored their chipping days. So we'll definitely live up to that. We're going to get into it starting next week. And the first homework assignment, it's pretty easy. You know, take pictures along your neighborhood as it exists today. Look at the roadsides here and those easements. Look at the community-owned property areas, if that applies to you. Some formally organized HOAs and property owner associations or POAs have community property. And then if there's a house at risk, you know, that looks really significantly vegetated here, take a picture of it. We ask that you don't take pictures of their addresses. We're not looking to embarrass folks, but we're trying to get a perspective on the risk within your neighborhood. And then email those pictures to epg@tlumc.org. That will allow us to collect them. And during the first session, we'll start to go over some of those pictures. And they serve as great perspectives on the before and after, where you started, and then where you're in at the end of the year. So you're able to make great progress. And those serve as, I think, great motivators for your neighborhood too, so that you can see folks that will work. So with that, I'd like to open the session for questions, discussion, and other aspects. So does anyone have any questions about what we discussed? And you can either put it in the chat or come off mute and ask your question.
Do all of you already know, like have a picture in your mind of how big your neighborhood is? In some cases, you might have to break it down. Where I used to live, it was technically 3,000 homes, but obviously that is more than we can handle. So we're hoping when you picture your neighborhood, it's like your street or like in Steven's case, it's something that's named. So that's a place to start.
Oops, sorry. A question from Kim, can we still invite people to join the remainder of the classes even though they missed the first one? Yes, like Lisa mentioned, you can come in at any time. Either come in every session or only the ones that interest you. Of course, we're going to reward those folks that stick with us the most and do the most homework here, but definitely invite all. We have a limit of 100 people in the meeting, so we're around 20 right now. So I think we're fine with inviting as many folks from your neighborhood as you'd like to invite. Linda asked, do you work with fire departments? Absolutely. So you'll see, as Lisa mentioned, I believe it's module 4, we will actually have a fire professional here speaking to that, and same thing with the forestry professional. So we've worked with fire departments in Cascade, the one in Monument here. We've talked to fire departments or folks in Colorado Springs, the Donald Westcott fire department. So yeah, we definitely do that. And then also in other areas, we actually had our guest speaker for the fire presentation from Evergreen, Colorado last year. So we definitely are, we know that we can't do this ourselves. So we want to partner with fire departments, and they provide the expertise and talk about the perspectives. We like to bring them in so that they can talk and educate folks about their perspective when they're in working fires and the services that they can provide outside of the fire incident time frame too, so people can get an understanding what the art of the possible is with that.
And they like to know what we're doing in their neighborhoods, because they realize that the more work individual property owners do on their own property and take responsibility for their situation that we find ourselves in now, it makes it safer for when there is a fire that rolls through that neighborhood. The fire professionals that have to come in and help have a chance of making a difference and also being safer.
Okay. So
Linda wants to know where we are. I'm in Peyton, Colorado, and Andre's in Monument, Colorado.
Yeah. So like and my arrow with 3 friends here, you'll see a lot of the things that we do in our neighborhood replicated in this program also. But yeah, we're in Monument, but you know, we take our show on the road too. Yeah. Sandra has a question, or it starts out with a statement. We are on a cul-de-sac which has several other cul-de-sacs, so as Stephen indicated, only one way out. Will we cover how to best improve this particular environment? Yeah, we'll talk some about that for sure in terms of easements. We don't have a solution, for instance, with developing a path through, but we're willing to talk about it. And then really what we'd like to do, like Steve talked about, is connect you to the folks that are that have that responsibility and can help with that. I know some communities are taking those elements within their own hands, like Steve in his neighborhood. One of the property owners, actually the person that helped him get things started in terms of at least the wildfire portion of it, provided an access road through their property out to the other end, but it's only when that person is willing to leave that gate open for the fire. But that's one thought process with it, but we'll talk about it some, and then willing to talk offline to if we have to get into a lot of detail that requires more time than the session allows, but we're definitely willing to talk about it and provide whatever suggestions that we can, or connect you with the professionals that help you that can help you with that decision.
And we want to embolden you to be creative also. Kind of comes right down to it. I heard one lady say once, oh, I couldn't go out that way because I'd have to ask permission.
And Sandra lives on the west side, and let's see. So yeah, you have some unique challenges here with likely your navigation. I know we've talked with folks like in Rock Rim and here that there is no real choice other than coming out the exit here, and so you have to think and encourage folks to be more prepared to evacuate. So we'll talk more about that as we get into it. You're not going to be able to go over the top and over the front range side there. So you have to come down. So making sure that you're better prepared and that your neighborhood is better to support, more ready to support an evacuation is really important. I have a good story about that when I volunteered with the city, and that they did an evacuation exercise and people took their boats with them and blocked the roads from firefighters coming. They couldn't get a fire truck out because they had a huge boat that they were taking out with them out the neighborhood. So you had a log jam with that because people were not thinking about evacuation properly. They were concerned about their property, but now they caused a huge safety problem by deciding to bring their boat. So yeah, it's a real problem and needs to be discussed.
So module 8, the wildfire evacuation planning, I think our guest speaker will be from the Office of Emergency Management that day.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, with that, then I am going to hit us with our final poll and here, and we're looking to see what your interest is in continuing in the program. So we'll see that poll started now. So answer the one that most appropriately aligns with you. So really appreciate, understand if you're not willing to commit, but we definitely want to have folks participate. And like Lisa mentioned, we know it's a big commitment in time, but we didn't want to jam so much information that it would be tough for you to absorb it. We put everything in bite-sized chunks that we think is really doable, and then the homework is paced so that you can complete it. So we really encourage folks to stick with it here, and if participate as you're able here, and you'll find that a little bit will go a long way. So we're pretty excited about the program here. So I'll end the poll and share the results. So that looks great. Really appreciate everybody's willingness here. And like we mentioned before, we've had groups that they've had like a neighborhood of 6 people or so that participated in the session. Please invite all of those folks to come in. I think we have plenty of space for them to participate without us hitting the top end. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then here our next meeting is starts at the same time, Tuesday, February 28th. I will send out the schedule and reconfirm the link. And I apologize for all the problems that we had earlier with it, but I will send out the link. Please use that link that you'll receive in the email here to come into next week's session, and then that will be the same link that we'll use from there on out. And please disregard whatever link that you used if it's a different one than this one that was associated with the Eventbrite. So my apologies once again for that. So and then when we send out after this, also we'll send out the recording to everyone, so then you can share the recording with your neighbors too. So it'll be trimmed out for some of that buffoonery we had at the beginning part here. But with that, I'd say thank you for your time and appreciate your attention here. And we hope to see you next week. With that, we'll close the session and say thank you and hope to see you then.
Good luck with your homework.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming, Steve.
Thank
Good
you.
to meet you all.